All right. We are back. Saint Life Podcast, episode 6. I have a very special guest with me today. Very, very special guest with me.
Everybody's special. Right?
It's like when you go to the club and they tell you, you're going to the VIP.
Yeah.
You're a very important person, all right? We live in that type of society, man. We just give participation awards and everything. But no, really special. We do a podcast together. Let me say it like this. It's way bigger than the podcast game. This is someone that's close to me. I'm close to him. I spend more time with him, except for maybe my wife. More time with him than anyone else.
I hope you spend more time with your wife. Oh, boy.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's pretty close. So I counted it up the other day. We probably spend about 4 to 8 days a week together. 4 to 8 days a week.
Yeah, it's a lot of time.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you on here. Today's episode is called Intentional. I wanted to play the Travis Green song in the beginning. But I know that wouldn't have been good for you. You didn't even know what song I was talking about.
Nah.
Okay. So, today's episode is called Intentional. We are going to be talking about what it means to be intentional as a Christian, why it's important, things of that nature. But let me start off like this. If you could describe yourself or just kind of tell a little bit about yourself. Someone meets you and they say, wow, you look fascinating as a person. Could you say it again?
Never happened.
It never happened. But imagine someone came up to you and said that and said, could you tell me a little bit about who you are? How would you describe yourself? Who you are and what you do, things of that nature.
Well, I would say I'm a child of God, love the Lord.
There we go.
I'm a husband, father of 3, been married 22 years, pastoring ever since I was 30. I'm 46 now, and planted 2 churches, currently serving in one in the city, and just loving Jesus, loving his people, and I have a heart to see people come to saving faith, and so that's why I do what I do.
Amen. That sounds great. I would say specifically to me, he is my pastor, and just close friend, good brother. He took over as like my main mentor in life. Whenever I separated from the other church, that I was going to, and it wasn't like a bad separation. I think it was the season was over and it was time for me to move on. But I believe God strategically, intentionally, let's use that word today, right? Intentionally place you in my life at the right time. I'm not going to go over the Starbucks story.
Okay.
I'm not going to go over that today. We'll say that for another time. But I thought there's no way that I can do the podcast that I'm doing, which is more of a local podcast. The podcast that me and you do, it's The Basement. We have people from all over the world that tune in. This one's more of a local one, right? And dealing more with local church type issues, things of that nature. There's no way that I could do this and not interview you. There's no way.
You could have. Right?
No. We have to. So, if there's one thing that I learned from you more than anything else, it's how important it is to be intentional. I would say you taught me especially to be intentional with the gospel, intentional with building relationships, and intentional with giving pastoral care. Just something that, obviously I'm still learning, but something that it didn't even really cross my mind before. But then I saw you doing it and I said, what is that? Wow. Okay, that's being not saying I never saw what a pastor looked like before, but that's pastoral care, and the way that you showed it was in a way that I just had never seen before. And I said, wow, that's the way he lives his life is so intentional. So that's why today's episode is called Intentional, and I wanted to talk about that today. So every episode, I talk about, I ask a person what their passion is, and we just talk about that. So today we're going to talk about this right here. I guess I'll start off like this. How did you become this way? Were you always like this, like intentional, or is this something that's developed over the years?
Yeah, I think so. I think with me, when I first got married, I started coming out of my shell. So I wasn't like a very relational type guy. I had a few friends, and I really desired just to be by myself. My wife is the extrovert.
Okay.
You already know.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
She thrives in relationship and in crowds and in events. That's why she's like an event coordinator for her job. She does all their events. She thrives in that, and I don't. And when we got married, what marriage ends up doing is creating a balance. It changes you because you have to change for the other person that you're with. You can't stay the same. So part of me that changed was being relational, and actually seeking out relationship. So credit to my wife, just following pretty much her example on how to relate to other people. I was able to value relationships, new faces, being intentional. And that's kind of like how I got into that. Like I started like actually seeking people out. When I was growing in leadership at the church I was in, I started almost like just walking out what I was seeing my wife do, and I actually started enjoying it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so when God was calling me to leadership, I always knew, I saw Jesus and how he led. I wanted to follow in his footsteps and lead as a servant. And so, yeah, so with marriage and of course, more importantly, with the example Jesus set out in discipleship, discipleship for me was that realization of being intentional in relationships. I want to see somebody grow. I want to see somebody deepen their walk in Christ, and that's always been my passion. But it wasn't something that I was used to as a person, so I had to change, and marriage helped me to change that.
So it wasn't always there.
No.
Do you think some of that, you being withdrawn or not so relational, it had something to do with your upbringing?
Yeah. Maybe because in my home, like I lived in a very abusive home. You know what I'm saying? So, my family used to shut people out just because my father didn't want to go to jail. My mom didn't want to get hit. You know what I'm saying? So like everything was always kept at home. And that,
especially in front of company. Who wants to get hit in front of company?
You know what I'm saying? So that whole abusive environment just caused us to be more closed up to everything else, because if not, then there'll be trouble. And I guess I just got used to that. So anytime I got in trouble, it was only with a few people, and I always kept to myself about things that we did. So that kind of just grew on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I could see how that could be a struggle, especially of all jobs. Why would you get into pastoring? That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Do you feel like you were like that was something you wanted all along, or something that God had to show you, like this is your calling?
No, he had to show me. I didn't want to do it. I fought it, actually. I didn't like being around people, but it seemed like he kept putting me around people. Fellowship is important. And I know some people that struggle to go to church because they feel that anxiety, that social anxiety. Like, I understand that. But I've learned to appreciate relationships and also find opportunities to contribute. That's my incentive to get out of my social anxiety. I want to see somebody grow. I want to see somebody come to faith, or see somebody mature in their faith. So I've learned to kind of create an incentive to kind of combat the desire to want to isolate. Got
to fight against it.
Yeah, so I fought the calling for years, and then God just finally put me. They asked me to preach. I couldn't say no because He wouldn't let me say no. So I preached my first sermon, and it was the worst sermon ever, bro. I almost threw up. And I still find times, like last Sunday, when we had our first service, I had that same anxiety.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Trust me, I know about the anxiety of public speaking, especially in the pulpit. It's a different level.
Yeah.
It really is. It's because preaching in the pulpit is not just like speaking at a podium.
Right.
It's different. So,
yeah,
I get it. Part of being intentional is having a servant's heart.
Mm-hmm.
Can a person truly be a pastor without having a servant's heart? And if so or not, whatever way you go with that, how do you balance having a servant's heart and then being the leader of the flock?
Yeah, so I would say you can't pastor. If you're not a servant, you're not a pastor. You know what I'm saying? If you're not a servant, you're not a leader. So I always tell people, like, you should you should lead out of your servanthood. You know what I'm saying? You're a servant first, and then you lead that way. Some people lead first and expect people to serve them. It's like, that's kind of like against everything Jesus did, especially in Philippians 2. Where it gives us the example. So I would say you have to have a servant's heart, because if not, then you're going to have a sense almost like you're going to feel entitled. You know what I'm saying? Like, people owe you, and that's where you get, that's where actually a lot of people get into control, because they want honor, they want something from the person they're serving or so-called serving. And that's where you get a lot of people that manipulate and control, because they function out of a sense of entitlement. And servanthood, or the way Jesus called us to lead, it's with no entitlements. I serve you with no expectation of anything in return. So I think that's the way to lead, is to serve. And some people have swapped those around a little bit, and it's caused a lot of problems. I think relationally, I've seen it wound people. I've seen people in authority just abuse their authority and abuse people, and they even justify it, because the person didn't give them what they thought the Bible said they should deserve. Now, the Bible does say honor your leaders, for it'll be for their benefit. But if the leader doesn't understand that they're a servant first, then I don't think they're qualified to lead. So
I agree. So your leadership should follow your servanthood.
Yeah, it should come out of your serving people.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
When you are you the type that you get in the mirror and do your affirmations in the morning?
No.
Okay. So how do you find motivation? Are there any scriptures that come to mind whenever you are having a bad day, or you need a little, a pick-me-up? Extra motivation? Are there scriptures that come to mind that you repeat in your head or you hold on to that keep you going?
You mean to serve?
Serve and just do what you've been called to do, which is just to serve in the home, to serve in the church, to serve outside, to because there's going to be days, I'm sure there's been days where you just didn't feel like doing anything.
Yeah. I think the Mark 10:45, for the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many.
That'll sober you up.
Yeah. I always think of how Jesus came and condescended to us. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't do it out of necessity. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't do it because he had to, or you know what I'm saying? He did it. God did what he did because he wanted to. You know what I'm saying? So God so loved the world that he gave. Like, he did everything out of love, not out of necessity. So that humbles me. Because if that's the case in which God had loved me and giving himself for me because he loved me, then that's a good motivator for me to love others. And then you get into the details of that, like how, man treated him, what he was given in return for what he gave. So it kind of, and then I think it's in 2 Corinthians, it talks about how out of his poverty we became rich. I think about that passage. So anything that Jesus did, out of his loss we gained, out of his death we live, like you can keep going. I think that for me is a motivator, is I go into a world full of entitlements, remembering I'm not entitled to any of it, and so that helps me to serve, because serving in the church, especially as a pastor, you're going to find people that, you're going to find people that are very challenging. You know what I'm saying? That are going to test you. They're going to push you. And, sometimes I don't have the right mentality. Like sometimes I even tell you, like, I'm done with so-and-so, you know what I mean? Like, enough is enough. And I'm just going to tell them to leave, And then sometimes I get into my sense of remembering again, softening my heart again. Just recently, there was an individual I was thinking about, where I was fed up. But then I saw him the other day, and I just conversated with him because I actually care about him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it comes with challenges, man. But Jesus just forces you to remember you're not entitled to anything.
This is true. This is very true. Speaking of what you're getting into right now, let's get into the good, the bad, and the super ugly. I say super ugly. I threw that in there because, of course, me being a Jay-Z fan, you being a Nas fan, when I say super ugly, it probably should set you off a little bit. What's your favorite part of being pastoral? Because I don't want to go right into the bad stuff. Let's get into good stuff first. What's your favorite part of being pastoral, being a pastor? Are there any benefits or any any advantages?
Yeah. I would say my favorite part is watching people grow. You know what I'm saying? When the light bulb switches on and they're able to grasp like some theological, truth. You see them grow. You see them think differently. I think that's priceless. You can be a part of somebody's life that totally redirects their whole life into maturity or into being a husband or being a wife. Like me and my wife have been a part of some people's lives where, they've become a better, a better young adult for marriage. You know what I'm saying? Like they matured and they prepared themselves, and we walk with them. We read books with them. And then to see them get married and then to see them have children, you know what I'm saying? Like to be a part of that, and then to see their kids impacted by some of the things that we were able to do with them. That's priceless, man. Like I know kids now that are with couples that we walk with, and they're being taught the scriptures. They're being loved on in a godly way. They're being taught who God is. Like you're talking about generations that you can be impacting. So to me, that's my favorite part, to see the impact of discipleship and then to see it in the next generation, see it passed on to children. I mean, I don't know of any better or, part of doing what we do.
Yeah, that's good.
So
seeing people change, seeing people grow, and even multiply.
Yeah.
Being fruitful.
Yeah.
Are there certain things that are easier to do as a pastor? Like you have things, everybody has parts of their job that they would rather do than not, than other things that they would not do, rather not do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What part of being a pastor is easier for you?
I don't know. It's all weighty.
It's tough.
Yeah, because we're church planting.
Yes.
So it's like what part of church planting that's difficult. All of it's hard. You already know.
Yeah.
You planned it too,
Yeah.
So like, every part of it is difficult, you know. I think.
How about the fellowship meals?
I enjoy those.
Yeah, that's probably the easier part.
Because I don't cook. So, yeah.
No, you were just grilling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true.
You were just grilling for everybody on
That's
Sunday.
true. That's true, yeah.
That was some good grilling, too.
Yeah. I don't mind doing that. You know, I feel like I'm serving. So, I love serving. But I don't know if there's an easy, honestly, man. Like, I think it's all, I can go into some difficult stuff, but I don't know. I think what's easy is probably Mondays because those are my days off. that's
you know, it's crazy. Most people complain about Mondays, but I never thought about a full-time pastor probably looks forward to Monday.
Yes.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Day off.
You know what? Next time I have you on here, we'll talk about Mondays and why they're so good.
I didn't even think about that because a lot of people, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Monday is like that.
Yo, Monday is the day I'm like, oh, goodness. But you look forward to that.
Yes, I do.
You and barbers.
Oh, yeah.
Barbers look forward to Mondays.
That's right. That's right. I have a whole family of barbers. So
yeah
that's so true.
Now, there's vulnerability that has to be present when you're being this intentional, right? There's some vulnerability. There's you can't be this intentional and not open yourself up to being able to be hurt, right?
Yeah.
What about the days where you do end up hurt from being open and vulnerable? You end up hurt, betrayed, and feel used. And I'm sure you've had plenty of days like that throughout your ministry.
It doesn't. Listen, man. It's hard because I've lost sleep. I've been depressed. Feeling betrayed. You almost feel dirty. You know what I'm saying? You don't feel comfortable under your own skin. Then you get suspicious. You know, then you start questioning the relationships you do have, because then you're thinking, well, this could happen here. You know, if so-and-so did this, then what if it happens here? You know, when we first met, that was a fear. I've always feared that. You know what I'm saying? But thankfully, through more time, us building together and having a relationship, that's been put away. But it definitely, when it happens, it just opens up, you know, all sorts of memories of past, you know, things that happened in the past. I don't think that's necessarily unhealthy. I just think it's a way of like reorganizing yourself and almost like clearing out the table a little bit again. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, you know, there's a way where you can be hurt that's productive. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, go into that a little bit. What do you mean by that?
Well, because it forces you really to, either you play on the pain or you look at it and say, okay, you know, you kind of like do some self-assessment and almost like being honest with yourself. I feel like for me, there have been times where I've been hurt and then I had to kind of like clear the table a little bit. What I mean is kind of like step back a little bit, look at what happened, and then instead of questioning the relationships that I have currently, I can flip that into valuing the relationships I do have. Because everyone, you know, the reality is we're all sinful, so everyone is susceptible to some form of hurting each other. You know what I mean? That's just how we're hardwired. But betrayal and, you know, being used, you know, now you're talking about a whole different thing, which has happened. And sadly, there's some people that are still using people. That's just, you know, they're manipulators. And those are the people that actually don't want nothing to do with. But I think it forces you to actually look at relationships objectively and kind of thank the Lord for the relationships you do have, instead of being suspicious about the ones you have currently. So for me, I've learned to do that. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody hurts me or rejection happens or whatever the case is in ministry or in the church, I really do cling on to the relationships I do have and thank God for those. You know what I mean? I know what it is to be suspicious from that, and that's not healthy. I think you're going to rob yourself of enjoying the relationships that God has given you. You know what I mean? So I've learned to be productive that way. Instead of being cynical or suspicious, when some form of hurt happens from somebody else, I just kind of turn away into the relationships that God has given me and thank him for the ones I do have. And remember also that even the ones that I do have will at some point in time, even you and everybody else in my life, you will hurt me sometime in some way. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I think communication is key. If we have a good relationship and something happens, then I should be able to talk to you about it. But if that doesn't happen, then all you're left with is suspicion, So I don't know, man. I think the pastorate is a lonely place sometimes. I would encourage pastors to build relationships immediately with other pastors and with people within your church that are mature enough to help you weigh and help you work through some of the issues you're going to deal with.
You feel like, because I've heard the phrase before, like celebrities talk about this, famous people talk about this, where you could be in a room full of people and feel alone. You can have a life that's filled with all these people that they want from you. Do you feel like that some of that is because maybe you're giving out more than you're receiving from others?
Yeah, that could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to that right there, just the loneliness that's involved, I'm sure sometimes it might feel like and I'm glad that recently you've been able to connect with those pastors in Millersville.
Yeah, bro.
That's been good for you.
Yeah.
Because for a little while there, because you have your ups and downs in the Christian walk where you have mad people around you at one point, and then sometimes you feel like there's nobody there that you can relate to in that way.
Yeah, so I get with once a week this other church called Millersville Bible Church, and they have their pastors meeting, and the executive pastor asked me to be a part of the meeting just to be there. And they pray, they chop, and for me it's just been a dope outlet. Last Tuesday was an amazing meeting. I was so encouraged, and it does feel good to know that I'm not by myself. It's brothers,
like a support group.
Yeah, man. I just actually text Todd the other day, thanking him for having me there. But that's a weekly, almost like a weekly thing to look forward to, where I know I'm not by myself. I have my brothers there, and now, of course, we meet up weekly too on Friday. So it's been really good for me.
Yeah,
because I have Tuesdays, I have Fridays. I have those days where I'm meeting.
Don't forget your Mondays.
Who do I meet with on Mondays?
No one. That's why it's so good.
That's true.
To recharge.
That's true, yeah. Sometimes I go to Flora's, you know what I'm saying?
There you
That's
go.
my little spot. But I think those are super, super, because you could be vulnerable and feel safe. You know what I'm saying? I feel safe with my brothers. I feel safe with you on Fridays. Those really are important to me. So I have those, and it's been really good.
That's good. Now, being intentional with all these people, how does this translate to the home life? Like, you being a husband, you being a father, do you feel like, and obviously this wouldn't be something that you're doing intentional, but do you feel like sometimes you give so much of yourself to everyone outside the home, sometimes it might take away from what you give in the home?
Well, I'm an empty nester now, so it's easier.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying? It was harder before when my kids were little. I think I gave too much out and not too much in. I made that mistake for sure. But now it's like me and my wife, we're very intentional in being together. So, we're always together. Even though it's been a crazy season, we found ways of being together. We'll have dinner together always. We go out together. We go out to shopping together. We do things together.
Right.
We're always together because it's just me and her. You know what I'm saying? So we got to make sure that we're always around each other. So I think it's actually been good because she naturally, being extroverted, wants to give, wants to be around people, and but that's what we do, in our church. So it's, for her, she thrives in giving, and for me, I can give, I don't thrive in it, and so I roll with her. Like, Vilma, for instance, was here the other day. Crystal the other day. Like, we have people over and we love it. You know what I'm saying? And for her, she thrives. For me, I love it, but then I know
you gotta unplug.
I need that Monday. You know what I'm saying? So, because I genuinely want to see them, and I care about them. I want to ask them questions like, how are you doing? What's going on? And have good conversations. But yeah, my way of giving back to my wife, as an introvert, is really to find time to be in solitude. I always tell people solitude and isolation are two different things. Like, isolation is like a dangerous place to be. But solitude is that intentional time where you decompress and you have time to just relax and recharge.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned maybe giving more away outside the home. You wish, you going back, you could have gave more to the kids, right? I think many pastors feel that way, and we always hear the PK thing. I'm sure your kids, being pastors' kids, they have their own stories and things of that nature. Is there any advice that you would give to husbands, fathers that are pastors out there?
Yeah. Like Stan Morton told me, he said, you can deal with losing your ministry, but you can't deal with losing your family. It's like, yeah, prioritizing that, loving on your kids, doing what they want to do, if you have daughters, loving on your daughters. I wish I would have done a better job. The mistake I made was allowing the toxic church culture I was in to tell me that if you take care of God's business, He'll take care of yours.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean?
Yes, we've heard that.
Yeah, we were groomed to think that. So we thought that by being at church all the time, that God was going to take care of my kids. And, that was a mistake that I made just because of the mentality that I was groomed in. And I would say take care of your family, and that's how you take care of the church.
Ta-da!
Yeah, it's like, tend to the garden of your family first, and then, out of that will come life into the church.
So you mean your effectiveness in the church is determined by how well you run your home?
Yeah.
I think I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
But how many people miss that, though? How many times do we miss that, right?
And the reality is, like, some of us come from backgrounds that make it very difficult to do things at home. Like, some of us don't know how to really love our wives, how to love our kids. But yeah, we're called into ministry. So I don't think God is asking us to run our home perfectly, but I think we should be intentional.
There we go.
Yeah.
I like that word.
To be intentional at home. If you're jacked up at home and you need help, get help. Doesn't mean you're disqualified from ministry. It just means you need help. And so pastors, we're also in need of counseling. We're in need of help, financial classes, marital counseling for us. Being honest about that, some pastors feel like they don't need help from nobody. It's like, no, you need help too, You're counseling a couple, well, you need counseling too. Yeah. Don't be afraid of counseling. It doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that you're human. you have sin you have to deal with also. One time there was a pastor, a well-known pastor, and I told him, that me and my wife, when we took our break, we had some sin we had to deal with. And their face kind of changed a little bit. Like, they thought I was talking about immorality. They thought I was talking about some crazy stuff
that'd disqualify you.
Yeah, and I was just like, relax. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't sin? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I can't be honest with you then. That's just a reality, man. Pastors got to own that. Like, you do have sins in your life that you need counsel through, you need help with, and just be honest about it. Like, that's healthy for you. Yeah. It was freeing for me, like, because the church culture I came from, pastors didn't allow any vulnerability to be seen. It's like, that was too much work for me. And it was almost antithetical to what I was telling people to do. Like, it's almost like you were telling people, hey, if you're tripping, let us know, we can help you. But what about if the pastor's off? They almost felt like they didn't have to answer to nobody. It's like, no, you actually do. So I think that would be my encouragement. Be honest in your marriage, be honest in your home, get the help you need. It doesn't mean that you're disqualified. It just means that you need help. Now, there are things that disqualify someone. I'm not talking about like crazy things in someone's life, like some craziness, but I'm talking about just normal, like maybe you're arguing with your wife and you guys are really, going at each other about finances or raising the kids or something at the home. And there's a lot of friction, a lot of tension.
You're getting kind of close here. And I'm like,
So if there's a lot of like, fighting, a lot of arguing, get help. It doesn't mean you're disqualified. It doesn't mean you're less than. It just means you're real. You need help.
That's good. That's good. Last thing. I was thinking about when we went to the conference. Steve Lawson mentioned, someone brought up, I guess they were a guest pastor, like when you go to places and you get asked to preach somewhere. And he said, as a guest preacher, the 15 minutes after your sermon is the most important. And it made me think like, wow, I never really thought about that. But it is, because you are being intentional and opening yourself up, and also being open for others, being available for them. And how that, I was just thinking as you were talking, how that plays into being intentional. As a pastor, I'm sure it can be hard to, whether you're a guest preacher somewhere or you're in the home turf, to open up and be intentional after you're done preaching. Maybe someone has questions for you. Maybe someone has criticism. But just being there for them, right? Have you, is that something that you've always struggled with, or is that just something like the other stuff that we talked about that has developed over the years?
Struggle with what?
Just being intentional after the sermon. And really, if you're not a guest preacher, then you kind of got to be, it's like the 15 hours after you get done preaching. Like your Monday. Now you roll into a Monday and someone still wants to talk to you about something. You're like, wait a minute, this is my recharge time. This is my off time.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with that, things of that nature?
I think I'm too insecure to talk to someone about something I preached or something I said. I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
But I'll do it. I've done it. So at the previous church plant, I'm going to be honest here, it was very difficult after a sermon because we had a lot of analytical theologians, you know what I'm saying? So they would chop everything up, and it was good. It was, it was challenging. It helped me to develop some thick skin when you say things that someone disagreed with. So I'm cool. I think I've learned from it. But the bad side of it is that the pastor, what I tell people is pastoring for years, God allows seasons of, challenging sermons that don't go well for the preacher. And I really believe God sovereignly allows it to build the preacher. But those are the seasons where the body has to care for the pastor and help the pastor instead of questioning and, shooting arrows at the pastor. You know what I'm saying? That's not healthy. So I don't deal with that generally good, in a good way, but I think I've learned to navigate around it and not take it too personal when someone disagrees with something, or, but I always want to keep it where I'm approachable to people if they have a concern, always. So if a congregant has a concern about something I said, I want them to have the freedom to say, hey, can I talk to you about something? And then we could chop about it. As long as the body knows, that church knows that there might be 5 other people in line.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That's the thing.
That could wear and tear. That's wear and tear on the pastor. So use wisdom. Make sure it's something good. Make sure it's something worth taking to the pastor.
But can't they go to other people in the church, other leaders in the church? Like I encourage people to do that as well. Mm-hmm. Like if you have leaders in your church, they can go to them too.
Yeah.
One of the guys that I always point people to is go talk to Benno. Benno will give you something to think about.
Yeah. Benno, actually, one time I bombed on a sermon. It was so bad. And he looked at me and was just like, man, I don't know. I was just like, I know, bro. And you know what? I actually didn't get offended because I kind of expected that, so. But, it could be wear and tear, man. I don't recommend going to the pastor always and sharing your disagreements. I would say if it's something really important, do it. But, man, pastor to pastor, care for him, care for his soul. He's watching yours, That's what I tell churches is your pastor needs shepherding too, and love on them.
That's good, man. That is good. Well, this episode was intentional. All the plugs, all of the shout outs, all of the links are going to be in the comment section, in the description box, wherever. This has been another episode of the Saint Life Podcast, episode 6, Intentional. Pastor Juan Carlos Morales.
I don't like my name at all, bro.
Yo, it's mad Rican.
Yeah, I know. I know. I sound like, I can just picture myself with like really tight shorts at a beach somewhere with the wife, with the tank top,
with the curly top,
fishing somewhere in Puerto Rico with a straw in my mouth or something.
Yo, yeah, that's like straight off the island type name right there.
That's super whack.
Yo, that is funny.
Yeah. It is what it is.
That's like a black man having the name Leroy Jackson or something like. Yo, that's mad black. And again, I can make these jokes. I'm black and Rican. I'm black and Rican. Anyway, I'm out of here. We're out of here. Next time we got to talk about Sunday's best, Monday's best, Sunday's best, Monday's rest. We're gonna talk about that.
Nice.
Maybe we'll get Sister Lynette to join us next time.
That'll be good.
Anyway, we're gonna get out of here. Make sure you guys share this. Make sure you tell somebody about what we have going on here in the basement. Everything that we're doing here. And I have the Patreon. If you want to support, go ahead, go to the website. I have all the links in the description box. I'm hoping to push out all kinds of content, not just interviews, but we could do certain different format, like going places and having conversations. We've been talking about doing that, and then COVID hit and then ruined all of that.
Yeah,
but we're gonna do that one of these days. But yeah, I'm hoping to push more content out there that would be edifying to the saints and glorifying to God. So anyway, Saint Light Podcast. My name is Wayne Vince Cooley. You can check me out on Facebook, YouTube, all of those other places. In case you were wondering, we keep on saying this is local. We live in Lancaster, PA. So if you're ever in the area, come through, check out our church. We just got a new church building. Christ Alone Fellowship. You can go to ChristAloneFellowship.com and sow a seed into the ministry. No, that's messing. All right.
I mean, you could, but.
Right. All right, y'all. We're going to get out of here. Bro, could you hit that red button for me?
Yep.
God bless.